everyone, and welcome to another HAES book group nominee. We are getting down to the last few. I only need to record another 3 after this, and then we will be able to start voting. Shrill I've already kind of figured out what I would do with Shrill because there is a series that was adapted from this book, so I figured we could probably, like, every few chapters or so, maybe do a reaction to an episode in the series. I think that would be fun. It would probably get flagged for copyright, but that's fine. And it's Shrill Notes from a Loud Woman, and we're just going to read it and kind of get a feel. I believe the first chapter is only about 10 pages. The typeface isn't very small, so I don't think it'll take us that long. Why is "what do you want to be when you grow up" the go-to small talk we make with children? Hello, child. As I have run out of compliments to pay you on your doodling, can you tell me what sort of niche you plan to carve out for yourself in the howling existential morass of uncertainty known as the future? Also, has anyone given you a heads up that everyone you love will die someday? That's like waking up a dog with an air horn and telling it that it's president now. I don't know, Uncle Jeff. I'm still kind of working on figuring out how to handle these weird popsicles with the 2 sticks. There was a time, I am told, when I was very small that I had a ready response to the question. The answer was ballerina or, for a minute, veterinarian, as I had erroneously believed that veterinarian was a grown-up term for professional animal petter. I would later learn, crestfallen and appalled, that it was more a term for touching poo all the time featuring intermittent cat murder. So the plan was abandoned. The fact that any kid wants to be a veterinarian is bananas, by the way. Whoever does veterinary medicine PR among preschool-age children should be working in the fucking White House. That period when I was wholly myself, effortlessly certain my identity still undistorted by the magnetic field of culture, was so long ago that it's beyond readily accessible memory. So I'm realizing, because I had just recorded Happy Fat and I had a fairly easy time getting through it, and the person who wrote Happy Fat actually didn't do a bad job writing-wise. I'm realizing part of the reason why I stumble over a lot of these books. Not entirely, but I think it's a contributing factor. These people don't know how to fucking write. This sentence is long and doesn't flow well. It really should have been rewritten. God, how many of those are we going to come across? I do not recall being that person. For as long as I can recall, any time I met a new adult who would inevitably get nervous because what is a child and how do you talk to it, and fumble for that same hacky stock question, my imagination would come up empty. My God, again. Fucking long sentence. Dear Lord, no one. God, I did so well on my last recording, and I'm struggling to get through this. And this is with taking. Not all of this is just my first run through. I stop and repeat lines all the time. I've tried to get through a couple of these sentences already 3 or 4 times before I'm tired of going through this, and we're barely started. I need to get through it, so I'm gonna just move on. These fucking long-ass sentences that have no business being this long and have entirely too many asides within the same sentence. Doctor, too gross. Fireman, too hard. Princess, those are fictional, right? Astronaut, lol. While we're interrogating childhood cliches, who decided that astronaut would be a great dream job for a kid? It's like 97% math, 1% breathing some Russian dude's farts, 1% dying, and 1% eating awesome powdered ice cream. If you're the very luckiest kind of astronaut ever, your big payoff is that you get to visit a barren, airless wasteland for 5 minutes, do some more math, and then go home. Ice cream not guaranteed. That is a very unfortunate way to look at space science. that actually kind of hurts my soul a little bit, that you don't see the beauty of these discoveries. But anyway, loophole. I can already buy astronaut ice cream at the Science Center. No math or dying required. Lindsay 1, astronaut nada. Lindy 1, astronauts nada. Unless you get points for debilitating low bone density, in which case I concede. Not that it mattered anyway. Astronaut was never on the table. Good luck convincing a fat kid that they should pursue a career in floating. Thanks to a glut of cultural messaging, I knew very clearly what I was not. Small, thin, pretty, girlish, normal, weightless. Winona Ryder. But there was precious little media telling me what I was, what I could be. For me, what do you want to be when you grow up was subsumed by a far more pressing question, what are you? I'd squint into the future and come up blank. What do you want to be when you grow up? I can't tell. Static, a snowfield, a bedsheet, sour cream. Is sour cream a job? As a kid, I never saw anyone remotely like myself on TV, or in the movies, or in video games, or at the children's theater, or in books, or anywhere at all in my field of vision. There simply were no young, funny, capable, strong, good fat girls. A fat man can be Tony Soprano, he can be Dan from Roseanne, still my number one celeb crush. He can be John Candy, funny without being a human sight gag, but fat women were sexless mothers, pathetic punchlines, or gruesome villains. Don't believe me? It's cool. I wrote it down. Here's a complete list of fat female role models available in my youth. Lady Cluck. Lady Cluck was a loud, fat chicken woman who took care of Maid Marian and presumably may have wet nursed her with chicken milk in Disney's Robin Hood. Cluck was so fat, in fact, that she was nearly the size of an adult male bear. Being a 400-pound chicken, she wasn't afraid to throw down in a fight with a lion and a gay snake, even though the lion was her boss. #lean in. And she had monstro jugs, but in a maternal sexless way, which is a total ripoff. Like, she doesn't even get to have a plus-sized fuckfest with Baloo. And then there was a little footnote. There's a couple of footnotes. One I missed, but the one I was looking at was the gay snake thing. Gay snake felt kind of weird, so I texted my guy, Branham. Is it problematic for me to refer to Sir Hiss as a gay snake? He's super gay, so this is just an aside. I know that the bear's name is technically Little John, but Little John is clearly a character being played by a bear actor named Baloo, who also played himself in the Jungle Book, and decades later, and then it actually continues to the next page. So it just, I don't think I'm going to bother with the footnotes because it just seems to be a lot of shit that doesn't really even need to be in the book. But okay. It's weird that motherhood is coded as sexless, by the way. I know most of America is clueless about the female reproductive system, but if there's one thing most babies have in common, it's that your dad goofed in your mom. Kind of figured it was going to be like this, but there's definitely a level of crass to this book. Not a deal breaker for me, but something to consider when going in. I'm going to assume that the TV show is just as bad. In order to assist, Baloo dressed as a sexy fortune teller. In order to assist Robin Hood in ripping off Prince John's bejeweled decadence caravan, Baloo adorns himself with scarves and rags and golden bangles and whirls around like an impish sirocco, utterly beguiling PJ's guard rhinos and incapacitating them with boners. Baloo, dressed as a sexy fortune teller, luxuriates in every curve of his huge, sensuous bare butt. Self-conscious is not in his vocabulary. He knows he looks good. The most depressing thing I realized while making this list is that Baloo, dressed as a sexy fortune teller, is the single most positive role model in my youth. The Queen of Hearts. I do not even know this bitch's deal. In Alice in Wonderland, her only personality trait is likes the color red. She doesn't seem to do any governing aside from executing minors for losing at croquet, and she is married to a 1-foot-tall baby with a mustache, She is, now that I think about it, the perfect feminazi caricature. Fat, loud, irrational, violent, overbearing, constantly hitting the hedgehog with a flamingo. Oh shit, she taught me everything I know. The sexual tree from The Last Unicorn. This fine lady was just minding her biz, being a big purple tree, when Schmendrick, the garbage sorcerer, came along and accidentally witchy-pooed her into a libidinous granny. Then he's all mad when she nearly smothers him twixt her massive oaken cans. Hey man, if you didn't want to get motorboated to death by a fat tree, you should have picked something thinner and hotter to transform into your girlfriend, like a spaghetti noodle or clarinet. The sex tree that launched 1,000 confusing fetishes taught me that fat women's sexuality isn't just ludicrous, it's also suffocating, disgusting, and squelchy. I feel like I should be commenting some on these, but I don't really. Well, one, I never watched Robin Hood as a kid. The Queen of Hearts, I could just go off on it. I love Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, so I could kind of go off on a completely off the beaten path rant about Disney's interpretation of the Queen of Hearts and how it kind of conflated the Queen of Hearts with the Red Queen, and then how I'm pretty sure Tweedledee and Tweedledum shouldn't have even been in Alice in Wonderland. And I mean, I could go. I gotta stop myself there because I can go into it. But that's not really relevant to the book. And then The Last Unicorn, I haven't seen. Miss Piggy, I only know slightly based on knowing the Muppets. Like, I wasn't a huge Muppet watcher. I don't have a whole lot to comment on these because I'm not very familiar with the characters. Marla Hooch, I don't fucking know. Oh, from A League of Their Own. I've seen bits and pieces of A League of Their Own. I've never watched it start to finish. I'm gonna guess Marla was played by Rosie O'Donnell. Ursula might have something for me to comment on, because that's about the only one. And so we'll keep reading through it. I'm just, I want to apologize for not having more commentary for you guys, because I'm not super familiar with a lot of these characters. I am deeply torn on Piggy. For a lot of fat women, Piggy is it. She is powerful and uncompromising, assertive in her sexuality, and wholly self-possessed, with an ostentatious glamour usually denied anyone over a size 4. Her being a literal pig affords fat fans an opportunity to reclaim the barb with defiant irony. She invented glorifying obesity. But also, you guys, Miss Piggy is kind of a rapist. Maybe if you love Kermie so much, you should respect his bodily autonomy. The dude is physically running away from you. Marla Hooch. A League of Their Own is a classic family comedy that minds the age-old question, what if women could do things? Specifically, the women of A League of Their Own are doing baseball, and Marla Hooch is the most baseball-doingest woman of them all. She can hit homies and run bases and throw the ball far, all while maintaining a positive attitude and dodging jets from Tom Hanks' hot urine. The only problem is that she is not max bangable like the other baseball women. She has a jukebox-like body and makes turtle face anytime she is addressed, which, if you think about it, makes her not that good at baseball after all. Fortunately, at the end, she meets a man who is also a jukebox turtle face, and they get married in a condescending-ass ceremony that's like, look, the uglies think it's people. Presumably, they also like each other's personality. What? Doesn't matter? Quarantine the less attractive? Okay. The thing about Marla Hooch is that the actress who plays her is just a totally nice-looking regular woman. I always think of this thing Rachel Dratch said in her memoir. I am offered solely the parts that I like to refer to as the unfuckables. In reality, if you saw me walking down the street, you wouldn't point at me and recoil and throw up and hide in a shrub. Hollywood's beauty standards are so wacko that they trick you into thinking anyone who isn't Gina Davis is literally a toilet. The neighbor with the arm flab from The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Big Pete and Little Pete spent an entire episode fixated on the jiggling of an elderly neighbor's arm fat. Next, I didn't wear a tank top for 20 years. Ursula the Sea Witch. The whole thing with Ariel's voice and Prince Ambien overdose is just an act of civil disobedience. What Ursula really wants is to bring down the regime of King Triton, so she and her eel bros don't have to live in a dank hole, tending their garden of misery slime for the rest of their lives. It's the same thing with the Lion King. Why should the hyenas have a shitty life? History is written by the victors, so forgive me if I don't trust some P90X Sea King's smear campaign against the radical fatty in the next grotto. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. My dude. It's not that deep. I don't even know. It's based off a tale from Hans Christian Andersen, and I don't think the witch was fat in that one. I think that was Disney putting that, and I think it was because a portion of her body is meant to mimic an octopus, and then it's like human. So I always kind of just figured the big portion that's like partially like her belly and hips, I just kind of assumed that was meant to tie in to the octopus quality of her. And then like they made her arms fatter and made her a bit fatter to kind of even it out. But alright. Morla, the aged one from the Never-Ending Story, a depressed turtle who's so fat and dirty people literally get her confused with a mountain. Auntie Shrew. I guess it's forgivable that one of the secondary antagonists in The Secrets of Nim is a shrieking shrew of a woman who is also a literal shrew named Auntie Shrew, because the hero of the story is also a lady and she is strong and brave. But like, seriously, Auntie Shrew? Thanks for giving her a pinwheel of snaggle fangs to go with the cornucopia of misogynist stereotypes she likes to call a personality. Again, not familiar with either of those characters. Mrs. Potts. Question. How come when they turn back into humans at the end of The Beauty and the Beast, Chip is a 4-year-old boy, but his mother, Mrs. Potts, is like 107? Perhaps you're thinking, Lindy, you are remembering it wrong. That kindly white-haired snowman-shaped Mrs. Doubtfire situation must be Chip's grandmother. Not so, champ. She's his mom. Look it up. She gave birth to him 4 years ago. Also, where the hell is Chip's dad? Could you imagine being a 103-year-old single mom? As soon as you become a mother, apparently you are instantly interchangeable with the oldest woman in the world, and or 16 ounces of boiling brown water with a hat on it. Take a sec and contrast Mrs. Potts' literally spherical body and the cut diamond abs of King Triton, father of 7. Okay, one, there's a big difference there, because pregnancy changes the body. But I gotta look up human Ms. Potts now. So this was Ms. Potts in the animated version. I don't think she looks like she's 107. I think the only unfortunate thing was the hair. I think she was meant to look very mom-like, and she's heavier and stuff. I think the white hair was simply because I think she was probably designed after they had made the teapot version of her, and so the white was to tie in with that. I don't think it was meant to signify her age. I think that whole thing is reaching. So we're just gonna move on. The Trunchbull from Matilda. Sure, the Trunchbull is a bitter, intractable, sadistic she-monster who doesn't even feel a shred of fat solidarity with Bruce Bogtrotter. Seriously, Trunch? But can you imagine being the Trunchbull and growing up with Miss Effing Honey? The world is not kind to big, ugly women. Sometimes bitterness is the only defense. I think she's reaching. That's it. Taken in aggregate, here is what I learned in my childhood about my personal and professional potential. I could not claim any sexual agency unless I forced myself upon a genteel frog, or unless, as part of a jewel caper, I was trying to seduce a base, horny fool such as a working-class rhinoceros. And if I insisted on broadcasting my sexuality anyway, I would be exiled to a sea cave to live eternally in a dank garden of worms, hoping that a gullible hot chick might come along once in a while so I could grift her out of her sexy voice. God damn, that was a long sentence. These could have been separate sentences! This Oh my god. The semicolon is not needed here. It just makes it unnecessarily long. It's not needed for your point. These could have been separate sentences. She used the semicolon at least twice. You're using it too much. Stop. I hate how hard it makes it these fucking books to read because the fucking grammar is awful. Alright. It would have been had a much better flow if she had just made them separate sentences. Like, you could make these each short sentences, and it would have had a bigger impact than this long piece. And I'm sorry to be... I'm sure it seems nitpicky, but it makes it very hard to fucking read. Even in those rare scenarios, my sexuality would still be a joke, an oddity, or a menace. I could potentially find chaste comical romance provided I located a chubby simpleton who looked suspiciously like myself without a hair bow, and the rest of humanity would breathe a secret sigh of relief that the two of us were removing ourselves from the broader gene pool. Again, too fucking long. No need to have this many commas. Like, I do shit like this sometimes. I do. I'm not saying that I don't do this, but I don't publish books like this. If it's one thing that's gonna kill me with the HAES reading group, is that I'm realizing it's the bad fucking grammar, and you best bet that's just assume that's gonna be a feature as we go through this. Because I've been thinking, you know what? Technically, I can read out these books because it's a performance, and given that I'm giving criticism throughout it, it would be protected from copyright. So, we might do it that way. And if I'm doing it that way, I'm gonna point out this fucking bad grammar. Because it's just, oh my god, I never really understood. So I have bad grammar myself. I recognize that because I was an English major and I wrote many papers and people kept pointing out how I overused commas. And I recognize that I overuse commas. That's why I would hire an editor. Someone who's good with grammar. Someone who's better with grammar than I am. I can do very well in everyday life, as I'm sure these people can, with our shitty grammar skills. But if I'm writing a book, I want people to be able to get out of it and be able to go through the page a single time without wondering where they got fucking lost. So, I would hire someone, an editor, that's better at this shit than I am. Or I could succumb to the lifetime of grinding pain and resentment and transform into a hideous beast who makes herself feel better by locking helpless children in the knife closet. Mother or monster? Okay, little girl, choose. This should be interesting. If we read through it, we will watch the Hulu series with it. The second chapter is apparently titled Bones, so we can see where that fucking goes. And, I might try to see if I can... I'm not sure if I would want the Hulu series to be a blind reaction, because I've never watched that series before, so I would be a complete blind reaction. Or if I would try to see if I could match up chapters. I don't know how well that would work. And we'll only cross that bridge if this gets chosen. But let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.